Donald Trump's threats to impose tariffs against countries buying Russian oil as well as European Union sanctions have started to take effect, and the Kremlin is already feeling the consequences. The largest Indian company, for which Russia became the biggest supplier of crude oil, has decided to completely stop buying Russian oil right now, without waiting for Trump's tariffs. The change in strategy is happening at a time when the United States is threatening the main buyers of Russian oil with 100% tariffs, and the European Union is trying to stop the flow of oil products made from it. I'll explain what this means in this episode. Moreover, Western buyers have started refusing to cooperate with the Indian oil refining company, in which almost half of the shares are owned by Rosneft. And now the Indians are rushing to simply get rid of this Russian influence. In addition, the first cases have been recorded where Russians are unable to load oil onto tankers that have recently come under European Union sanctions. Moreover, after the European Union's decision, there have been cases where tankers entered Indian ports to load oil products, but turned around and left empty. Because the Europeans signaled that they would not buy these oil products made from Russian oil. Let's figure out this story together. My name is Aleksey Pechiy, and today is July 23rd. Next, let's go through everything step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, write any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link is in the video description. We publish breaking news there as it comes in. Also, friends, if you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so with any donation. I would appreciate any support. All the links and details are in the description of this video or by the QR code on your screens. So today the agency reports that the Indian, for which Russia has become the largest supplier of crude oil, intends to diversify all its purchases. The change in strategy comes at a time when the United States is threatening the main buyers of Russian oil with 100% tariffs, and the European Union is trying to completely stop the flow of oil products made from Russian oil into Europe. The new measures by Western countries are forcing buyers to also stop cooperating with an oil refining company in which Rosneft owns almost half of the shares. People familiar with the company's import plans said that it is now looking for ways to diversify its purchases. This is not just talk anymore. Certain actions are already being taken. This year, the company is purchasing an average of 603,000 barrels of Russian oil per day, whereas in 2000. In 2021, before the start of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, this figure was less than 40,000. Do you understand the difference? Before the war, it was 40,000 barrels per day. Now it's 603,000. Russia accounts for almost half of the imported crude oil and about 20% of the petroleum products that the company exported this year were sent to Europe. But now, both the United States and Europe have given a clear signal to this company. By the way, this is the largest company in India that if you work with the Russians, then you won't work with us. At the end of last week, it made a rare purchase, acquiring a batch of Murban crude oil in Abu Dhabi. Traders reported this, and a tanker from this company picked up the cargo shortly after the European Union announced its 18th package of sanctions against Russia on Friday, which includes a ban on the supply to the European Union of any and all petroleum products made from Russian oil. It doesn't matter where it happens. By the way, this applies primarily to India. I'll explain why. On Monday, the European Union clarified that the embargo on petroleum products made from Russian oil will take effect on January 21st in 6 months. Nevertheless, the Indians are already preparing for the fact that the opportunity is closed. The thing is, when Russia launched its full-scale war against Ukraine, India set up a certain scheme. They bought cheap Russian crude oil, processed it into petroleum products at their own refineries, and then sold these petroleum products to Europe at market prices. Now, Europe is openly stating that this scheme will no longer work. We are not going to buy petroleum products made from Russian oil. But what's so unusual about the fact that an Indian company suddenly buys a trial batch of oil in Abu Dhabi? In general, it rarely buys oil from Abu Dhabi, which is considered a premium grade. Mostly it purchases cheaper sour grades, both Middle Eastern and Russian Urals. The company quickly adapted after. Due to sanctions, it began to be sold at a significant discount. And already in 2022, it was purchasing an average of 219,000 barrels per day. In 2023, Russia became its top supplier and was already delivering 428,000 barrels. Today, it's 603,000 barrels per day. Among the other main suppliers of raw materials for this company are Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the United States of America, whose main shareholder is a billionaire. This is the largest conglomerate in India with a market capitalization of over $220 billion. And some time ago, it was even in talks to buy out Rosneft's stake in another Indian company. But the Naira oil refinery came under the latest European sanctions, and traders began to refuse to work with it at all. Traders are refusing to engage with anything connected to Russia due to the country's involvement in the situation. And here are the first consequences. Already, 2 tankers that had planned to pick up a batch of fuel from this refinery in the Indian port of Vadinar, which also belongs to Nayara Company, turned around and left without any cargo. I want to emphasize, the European Union sanctions will come into effect on January 21st in 6 months. Currently, there is no official or legal direct ban on buying petroleum products derived from Russian oil. But nevertheless, already 2 tankers have arrived and then they said, no, we still won't buy this, we'll go and buy somewhere else. And the most interesting thing is that on Sunday, the chartered tanker Talara cancelled its order, almost reaching this port already. Then, in a similar way, a tanker belonging to the company did the same. Initially, it was supposed to load about 35,000 tons of diesel fuel in Vadinar and deliver it to Southeast Asia. But now this tanker heading empty from Vadinar indicates an intention to pick up a similar cargo in Kuwait and head to East Africa. So, there have already been 2 such notable cases when tankers approached, then realized that it was the company connected to Russians, and left empty. State-owned refineries, which dominate India's retail fuel market, will now have to seek government approval before entering into new deals with Nayara Company. And the authorities have already stated that they intend to stop using Russian oil. Besides European Union sanctions, India, now the second largest buyer of Russian oil after China, may also face criticism from the United States. President Donald Trump and then members of the congressional administration began threatening buyers of Russian oil with 100% tariffs. So, accordingly, India is in a hurry to quickly give up Russian oil, even though these sanctions are still only on the horizon. But, in the end, I just want to add a funny piece of news. Russians are so smart, in quotes of course, that they sabotage themselves, without European or American sanctions. According to reports, the loading of oil tankers in Novorossiysk and Yuzhnaya Ozerevka has been suspended. Through the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk, the export and transit of Urals, KE-KPA, and Siberian light oil grades is carried out. The neighboring terminal in Yuzhnaya Ozerivka, owned by the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, handles the blend. And do you know what caused the suspension of tanker loading at these 2 Black Sea ports in the first place? The actions of the dictator Putin himself. On July 21, a decree by President Vladimir Putin came into force, establishing new rules for foreign ships entering Russian seaports. Next is a quote from Putin's decree, and you'll understand everything yourself. It is established that entry into the seaports of the Russian Federation by ships coming from foreign ports is allowed only with the permission of the port captain, coordinated with an official of the Federal Security Service, that is, the Federal Security Service. Well, apparently the paranoia is just breaking through all levels now. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.